Perfect.
Display capture.
There we go.
All right, I've got us live too on my channel as well. So this is just how it's gonna have to be. I tried to do it where you all could go live. So if you received any gifts or anything, you would
Waiting, 'cause my-
you would benefit from it, but it's just not working like that for us.
I'll be honest, like the whole mass marketing of going live is like I get the intrigue, but I don't think that's really a drive for me. So I will forfeit my gifts to whoever hosts.
I am not lovable of a person to get gifts. I've been on. I used to do lives all the time, and like I have still never made enough money to like make a payout. I always just end up giving my gifts back to other people in lives.
Me too. I get a
Yeah,
couple bucks.
Krista hopped on my live when I was trying it out. And I was just like, yeah, I have no idea what I'm doing. It's just, TikTok told me to do it. So that's what I'm doing.
It was fun though. It was fun. We were just hanging out. All right. Well, let's get.
Yeah, no, it was cool. Like I said, I kept asking if people could explain things to me. But...
Yeah, man. All right. So
let's get rocking and rolling. So we're gonna call this Random Encounters with Krista or with GMs, whatever we decide on. But welcome back to Random Encounters. Today I've got a lovely set of 3 guests here that I would like for each of them to introduce themselves, and we've got a set of questions that we prepared ahead of time so they could have some time to think. If they didn't think about it, that's not my fault. But yeah, whoever wants to go first and just tell me about who you are and what you got going on.
Sure. I am the Heathen Nerd. Real name is Justin. I've been running TikTok since 2006, 2007. I started by running games because there was nobody nearby to run games. So I've actually ran more games than I played. I have 2 channels on TikTok. One's mostly all political ranting, so stay away from there unless you're into that. And then I have this one where I come to decompress. And I did look at the questions, but I'll be honest, the games that I primarily run are ones like Delta Green, Call of Cthulhu, horror-based games. So a lot of these questions are only tangentially related, but I can add and follow up on because I do experience a lot of these problems. Just it's from a different perspective.
It's very much the difference is driving a tractor or driving a car. It's the same base concept in ways, but it's very different during operations.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Nice. So my name's Captain Nomi, Eli Moreno. I've been running games since I'd say 2021, right after COVID, right after quarantine ended. Got all the homies together and started just learning because nobody wanted to DM a game and I wanted to play. Listened to constant Critical Role, constant Dimension 20 and said, screw it, I'm just going to Dungeon Master. So before I even learned how to be a player, I learned how to be a Dungeon Master. Because that's the only way I was able to even get that fixed, to get that feeling of like, all right, this is how this is done. So since then, I'm still running the same campaign from when I first started. It started as Dragon of Icespire Peak, and then I introduced a deck of many things. It spiraled absolutely out of control, and it's absolutely rules of cool, unstructured chaos right now at this point.
Heck yeah. He also has a clothing brand that I just bought from that I loved.
I appreciate you. Thank you. That's what I'm wearing here, my Just a Gnome shirt. Because I'm just a gnome.
Heck yeah.
Appreciate you.
I guess that leaves me. TTRPG dad. been doing TikTok for, I don't know, like 4 months. Got in. I think I got into TikTok when the first government closure aspect of it came up, and I was like, yeah, let's hop on here and see. And then it just never closed. So I was like, all right, cool. Let's just kind of watch silly videos or whatnot. So I was a late bloomer to TikTok, and then only like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I kind of started just like doing rants where I kept seeing videos where people were asking these general questions. And I mean, it was about that time saw Krista, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. Let's put 30 years of knowledge on the subject to hopefully some good. And yeah, so I've been playing since the mid to late 90s, DM'd since the early 2000s, and kind of been going on a tangent. Started in 3E, but then backtracked to 2E, and did some there. So I've kind of got the whole packet experience, and up until about 2 years ago, I was an active participant and have kind of been on hiatus since my newest addition to the family. So hopefully soon I'll be able to rekindle time and effort to having fun.
You always got time, man. You got time.
As somebody who has
I
a
got
second kid on the way, it gets real hard.
Oh, trust.
That was my fourth. So I'm juggling after school activities more than I do sleep. So
Gave my son lunch just now. Said, all right, son, I'm gonna be in the garage for a little bit, running alive. Just if you need anything, please let me know. He's 3 years old, so I hope he understands.
Don't
stay
burn the
alive for
house
2
down.
hours and we're good. Okay, you'll get ice cream.
You know, I got the garage open, you know, and do it here. I'm like, all right, you know, he's good. He's got his lunch right now. He's happy.
Lunch.
All right, so how shall we run this?
Yep.
Oh, what's up, buddy?
What?
You heard me talking about him.
He said me?
I'm on live right now.
Yeah, so basically what we're gonna do is
My ears tingled.
I know. He's like,
talking about me.
yeah, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna hop right into some questions, and I think there's a little bit of a lag, so we'll just have to bear with each other on that. At least on my end, I think it's me. I think I'm the problem. It's me. Well, I can't say that on TikTok Live. Never mind. Yeah, so I'll hop right in. So this whole kind of episode, if you'd like to call it that, is about what to do when you are thrown into something random, like a curveball. So these set of questions that we've got tonight they're gonna be surrounding what to do as a GM when you get thrown a curveball. I didn't really introduce myself. I guess there could be new people in the live or someone that's watching later. My name is Krista. I am a new DM as well as a new Dungeons and Dragons player as well as a Daggerheart player. I've only been playing since last November, and I started DMing a little over a month ago. I'm also running Dragon of Icespire Peak, and it's been a lot of fun. We are at Nomengard this week, so I'm very excited to go into Nomengard with them. If you know, you know. Outside of this, I have a wife and a dog. I don't have any children. My wife is in the chat sending lots of things. She's wild. But yeah, we're based out of New England. We love it up here, and that's pretty much us. Yeah, so let's get right into it. So the first question I have, which I'll reiterate once Eli comes back, is how do you keep the story moving when the party ignores the main plot hook?
all right. Sorry about that. It was about T-minus 10 seconds before he starts asking you guys questions.
we can that could be a segment. That's fun.
Be 10 minutes of just questions after questions that nobody understands.
The main one being why.
It'd be like that meme on the kid. Can't phrase the question fully. Have you ever thought
Yes.
all day?
That's good.
And then you answer, and it's like, why?
Yes.
Why?
The wise friend.
All right.
Adventure
so
Soup says that this question was his big fear when he was jamming the first time.
That is, yeah, honestly, same.
All right. So we're on that first question right now, right?
Yeah, so Eli, the first question is, how do you keep the story moving when the party
Okay, perfect.
ignores the main plot hook?
Okay. All right. Well, anybody else started?
None of us have started. I mean, I can lean on this one with my perspective, and in my perspective, this really is a situation that depends on the kind of game that you're running and how you prep your game. So for like when I prep a session, that's the thing to do. That's what the townspeople are talking about. So even if they miss that main plot hook, other people are going to point back in to other leads, other avenues into that. And if they still want to be obstinate, I mean, well, then you can just be a little clever. Maybe they don't want to take the plot hook for the bandits on the outskirts of town. So maybe while they're doing whatever, their plans get foiled because bandits come in and bust up the town. Like if they don't want to engage the plot is more than welcome to come engage the party.
Oh yeah, I agree. Definitely. A lot of times, whenever my players, because all of them's got ADHD, and I run my games primarily online for years, and so at this point right now, I just send them curveballs. So whenever they get off that main plot line or anything of that sort, I just kind of make, like he said, make it catch up to them. Find a way to introduce that throughout their little tangents, show that sense of urgency. So, like at one point, they wanted to go shopping. So, as they were at a little sushi spot and they were at a little ramen spot, I introduced, these thieves that at some point you were supposed to see, one of the arch nemesis, at this little shopping area, he just kidnapped your cabin boy. And now you have to engage him in the middle of this market because you completely ignored him. Now they're finally at a point where they finally found their cabin boy. It's been a little bit down the line, but now they're at the bat. But it's just throwing those little curveballs, making it find them and give that sense of urgency. They needed to find this director. So I made one of the director's guys kidnap his cabin boy, and now I give him that reason, this player that didn't really have a reason to go find this guy yet. It's like, oh no, now I have to get him. I have to get him just with everybody else. That's how I like to do it.
I love that idea. Was that in Dragons of Icefire Peak?
So they originally met that guy, well, the one that kidnapped the cabin boy, at that tangent when they got dealt the Deck of Many Things. They're a pair of carnival going twins that deals the Deck of Many Fates and the Deck of Many Things. So you kind of choose which one. When they first tricked him, he only offered whatever you want to donate, whatever you feel is just. And they got real greedy the first time they got introduced to that deck, all the way to the point where you've read it. Big old Kyrovane, they pulled the one where an adult dragon attacks the town. I'm like, oh, Kyrovane then goes through a genetic mutation, becomes an ancient dragon, and attacks this town now. So now, them as a 4th level party have to fight now an ancient. They got their asses handed to them, but I also gave them legendary items during those deck pulls. I'm like, no, now you guys got to put those items to use. Now you gotta have fun. And then I had another like NPC on the side who they didn't know is a brass dragon, but he was shape changed as a dwarf. So at the carnival where they got that card, they didn't know the one that was leading the gladiator pit was a brass dragon, just kind of doing his thing, running an entire gladiator pit. So if things went sour, they had a little thing. Had a little something after that. Just in case. Didn't lead them to destruction. But they pulled roughly about 8 to 10 cards off that deck and tricked one of the carnival goers to Don John himself. You'll find out never. No. If you play that deck of many things, things will go sour. Fast.
I'm staying away
Which is
from that as
why
a new
I
GM.
don't think I've ever introduced it, because things go so sour.
Yeah. I've done more fun things than that. But I can go on tangent for hours of just the things of just trolling my players because they've been longtime friends of mine.
And I think that's actually a key aspect to keep in mind too, regarding the question of, keeping, getting people on track when they ignore it. If it's your friends, and you can over time set out cues. It's like, all right, like we've had our fun, we've had our S's and G's here. I want to be careful about certain words just to make sure Krista doesn't get banned. We already know she had issues with her age last time.
I got a problem tongue. My bad. I apologize.
When you're doing like random tables, absolutely. Like you want to kind of be able to figure out how to re-rail, so to speak, the story. And I've always hated the term railroading because it makes it sound like, oh, you didn't sign up to play this particular adventure. Like, I understand, like, side quests. We've all played, Skyrim or similar video games where it's like, time is of the essence, the netherworld is rising to the top. It's like, I'm going to go pick 100 flowers. Like, yeah, I spent 6 hours picking flowers instead of stopping the end of the world. But when it comes to re-railing a story, my trick is always that I've never permanently placed anything. I've created locations. I've created everything, but it doesn't really exist in the world until you find it. So to think of it from that aspect of, once you enter a house, that layout is drawn up and it's ready. But what is in each room? Like, if everyone's going to skip 4 rooms with key aspects, I can, say, no, you needed to find the key. Like, this door is, it's got 6 different keys and whatever. So now they have to go back. Is that railroading? No, it's not. It's, storytelling. But if they go off and start picking flowers, it's very much like what you guys said, is that there are consequences to their delay. And those consequences kind of just up the heat, up the ante to what they need disposal, or the enemy is stronger, or like they managed to raid the armory, and now instead of a bunch of bandits in leather armor, now you're dealing with guys in chainmail, plate mail, and well-forged weapons. So it's not railroading, but it is storytelling. And once you've done that at a random table, of course, make it understood, session 0 is like, look, I'm okay with you guys doing whatever. Just understand that if you ignore the base premise, there are consequences to that. And if you're there with your friends, they're just going to laugh. And it's like, haha, we finally gave it a challenge. Because as I've stated in some of my videos, when you have a party of 6 people that have been playing together for 20 years, there is that, Iron Man, Captain America synchronized fighting thing going on. And there's just like, here's an ancient black dragon, and a level 3 party took it down because they know what they're doing. So it's those kinds of things. So yeah, it's getting it on rail. I just say, light the fire, and eventually they will decide to stop it.
Yeah.
I think the trick, well, I guess not really the trick, but the key wording is don't prep dynamic games. Prep games that can change with what your players are doing. Don't create snapshots. Don't create a dungeon where the dangers in the dungeon can never escape the dungeon, because then if they never go to the dungeon, then there's never anything to do. Make your story dynamic so it can adjust. So, have things in the dungeon that if they're not taken care of, they're not going to stay put in the dungeon. Allow the story room to breathe and adjust for what the players are doing. Like, people use the phrase, with the party going off the rails. Well, you're the one who decides where the rails are in your story. And if you prep from a dynamic standpoint, you can incorporate and plan for a lot. Like, it's all about the mindset of the prep.
Yeah, so I had a
Very much so. And to kind of build up on you.
It's my
Sorry,
lag.
I got
It's
a delay
okay.
on my headset, so
Yeah, I think it's me. No.
It's all good.
So I had a situation this weekend in the game that I play in, and it seemed like, I'm gonna check and see who's in the live first, just to make sure he's not in here. But it seemed like my DM was not very happy with our decision, and it felt so weird and awkward when because he had a portion that was tied into somebody's backstory, which it wasn't mine, it was another player, and there was this house that we were supposed to be going into looking for the specific document, and when we got into the attic of the house, he had these ghouls up there, and we were on like a ladder into an attic, and the tank of the group went first and noticed the ghouls and let us know. And so we were like, okay, well, we're not going to go up there then. We're going to head out. Like, we're not going to go get attacked. And somebody else, the warlock was like, well, let's just burn the house down. And so we did. And we didn't know that there was important documents in this specific house. We just were looking around this abandoned house. And he seemed so irritated that we did that, and he even mentioned, like, well, there was lots of stuff in there, but it's burning now, so who cares? And it was just kind of awkward for us. But like what you were saying, like, we did go off the rails, but like, he could have just moved the stuff, like there was a barn that we were going to be going to next. Like, it could have just been in there. He didn't have to say, well, you just ruined my plan, so
He was very invested in that moment.
Yeah, so the preset of following what you can write stuff down all you want, and you can do all the building you want and say, oh, here's this chest. It's in this room because I drew it on a map and I put it in here and whatever. That chest can be anywhere. Again, like I said before, nothing is placed until it is discovered, and yes, like in Delta Green or Call of Cthulhu, it's like it's kind of harder to say, like, okay, I know, like, the big 30-foot tall 6-ton monster is in the ballroom because that's where it's got space. And the party goes, no, let's go in the broom closet. You can't fit Cthulhu into the broom closet. Like, that's not how it works.
What are you doing?
But the base concept of it is with, like, treasures and stuff like that. My old DM used to do this all the time, where it was like, oh, this peasant had a map, but, we cast Fireball, and so he was like, all right, you burned the treasure map. It was like, it could have been in a scroll case. It could have, like, it's that failure to translate the mechanics into a reward. Where that immediate 1-to-1, you cast Fireball, everything burnt to ash, or you stab this guy and like video game logic, he exploded. Now there's nothing. It doesn't have to be that way. So that translation needs to be that's our responsibility as game masters to translate the play into rewards. And when you follow the script page for page, word for word, a lot of that gets lost. And it's like, again, when you do something unexpected, it's like, oh, you ruined it. So instead of just saying, oh, the chest was under the floorboards and that's what's left after the house burns down, where you find it. Kind of.
Yeah.
And I've burned down my dungeon master's house before when it comes to a whole big bad place that we thought was a room. We were like, no, we're just burning this whole place down. And I saw the look on his face like, really? Burn the whole place down? We're like, yeah, we're gonna burn this whole place down. This guy is a madman.
In the
really terrible
game, we did this.
Like there was a very traumatic things going on in that place, and we got rid of it. We found out he has 3 other clones. So now we got to find his other clones. They're equally as bad. And every time he ends, he finds another clone to hop into. And we're like, oh, this guy. And I play the artificer. I've been making all those jokes in my posts about. That's my character. And I do those things. I built the first boombox. And I troll my dungeon master. That's been my homie for years, though.
What were you saying, Justin?
I was saying, in the game, we got rid of the house.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't want to be just on TikTok
Context.
Live.
For context.
Yeah, we don't want to be on TikTok
Context.
Live being like, hey, I burned down my dungeon master's house. Here's a GoFundMe.
Right, in the game. Yeah, I've got to get used to the TikTok lingo.
The TikTok PC.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and ask the next question. Have you ever completely abandoned your prep because of a curveball?
Nope. Never.
In ways?
We're going to need to have like a 1, 2, 3.
Everybody roll a d20, roll initiative. Are we doing this?
I'm going to bring out my mystic dice for that. It's an 18. Nope, so that's a 16.
I can get this d20 out of here.
Oh, 16.
16, man. Just in there.
18.
Oh.
Okay.
We got 2, 16, and 18.
Who has the higher dex, I think. Isn't that how it is in Dungeons and Dragons?
It leaves you to go, Gnome.
Okay. If we count on dex, then my ankle... I think almost anybody can break my ankles.
Let's just put it this way. I'm a father of 4, and I got chronic back issues. My
We're
dex
all
is
humble.
-2.
So, let's see. When it comes to abandoning my prep because of curveballs that my players throw me, just about any session I prepare for curveballs. I always prepare for a curveball. Even in my preparations, I'm like, they could screw something up or do something that I'm like, oh. So, example, we had a pirate city of Leviathan, and a Leviathan attacked the pirate city of Leviathan. So they took their sky ship and decided to Tokyo drift this thing. One of my players, he's been racking up on Nomen Guard grenades. As you know what the Nomen Guard grenades do, possibly. These things are cracked. So he decided, the past week beforehand, he's been doing downtime, attaching them into a chain link. So he throws that all into one of the cannons, 10 of them, shoots it at the Leviathan. I'm like, all right, roll them bones. Roll all those dice. Figure out what these random effects are. They end up growing this Leviathan 2 times its size, multiplying already a gargantuan creature to a colossal creature. Now they're drifting this thing around them. I'm like, all right, how are you going to do this? What's going on here? So they roll all their attacks. They convince one of their NPCs that they, recruited, not knowing this man had a 9th level spell. He asks him, like, do you want me to do everything I got? Burns all the spell slots. I'm like, he has one casting of 9th level time stop. He burns all his spell slots. And this is just for fun and jokes and giggles. Because I'm like, this balanced combat is going off the chains now. They grew plants on this Leviathan. They multiplied its size. They did constant fireballs on it. So I'm like, all right, time stop the ship. You're Tokyo drifting around this thing. You're hitting all your cannons. How do you want to do this, guys? You guys are the heroes of Leviathan right now. Every beautiful city of pirates watching you save them like this. Yeah. So I let them be heroes. It was beautiful. It was glorious. Was I expecting it? Did I prep that? Not a single bit. Not one bit. Expecting it? Did I prep that? Not a single bit. Not one bit. But it was perfect.
I love it.
So
You just let
whoever wants
me.
to go next? Yeah.
So have I abandoned prep because of a curveball? No and yes, kind of a little bit of both. I have not abandoned it. I have delayed it because I will have a general idea. Kind of like it's kind of like driving into a town. You're gonna pass. Like welcome to this city town or welcome to this town sign, and what road you take from that point, that's a mystery. So I kind of have a base idea prep, like I kind of prep a radius. It was like these are the things that can happen, or these spaces that they can end up in while in this city or while in this whatever. So I kind of have it on quick draw, but I don't necessarily prep anything. Like I'll always have the main quest in front of me, because depending on the mood, sometimes you get on a main quest drive, sometimes it's a side quest session. One of the most memorable shopping sessions ever in my friend group. So I don't have anything. I know never abandon anything, but I kind of, again, if there's a cool hook that could have been used, if they didn't encounter it, it wasn't there, and it's available for later. It wasn't like, oh, you walked past the shady merchant and now this entire side quest line is gone. And if I need a time where they completely shatter something and it's like, oh, I can no longer do this part of the main quest because they straight up murdered this dude, in this character in the game or something by accident. Are we allowed to say murder hobos on here? Is that a thing?
That
In
the
game.
compound maybe.
Yeah. So, but in game,
Allegedly.
air quotes, allegedly. But yeah, no, like definitely when those things happen, that's when I pull the age-old, Skyrim trick of the messenger runs up and it's like, oh, I finally found you. I've been chasing you for this long. Here's a message for you. And then it runs off. And I have, or used to have, like I said, I've moved several times and kids and had to repair my house like 12 times in the meantime. So a lot of stuff is still in boxes. Some of it is still all the way back in Iceland, so like it never came over with me. So yeah, it's definitely, there are, like I used to have packets and packets of handouts, which were my get out of jail free card of here's a really detailed, cool handout I've made, and this is what the messenger hands you. And that buys me 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour to kind of figure out, okay, they did this, they bypassed all of this because, this is no longer a thing. This is if they go back on the main plot. If they ignore this side quest and do this thing, this is where we need to continue from. So it buys me that time. and I usually keep through all my sessions, much like my snacks, I keep them on hand. I keep a couple of shot from the hips kind of quest give notes and handouts, uh, just to buy time. So I never abandon anything, no, but I rearrange its location in the world, its entry point in the story.
I can find it another time.
I have had to restructure my plans to accommodate players going off the rails. I've never abandoned it. And how I've avoided abandoning with the next question. But I have had to alter my prep, and that just echoes back into that first point of, making your games dynamic. So it's not a big deal if, as opposed to learning this information from this NPC, they could just learn it from this NPC. Or maybe there's a rumor about this new establishment on the other. It's when we lock into scripted mindsets is where we start to find ourselves in these troubles, where the party will do something that is not within what we have planned and scripted for, that we're going, well, crap, how do we facilitate this as, the game master? And the trick is don't script it.
Sometimes you can just say one wrong thing and the players are off on a tangent on one little extra detail you shouldn't have said, and now they're on that extra detail.
You can describe the environment in the wrong order and with too much detail, and they will think that one thing is way too important. Like if you're describing an environment and you are there's a twist in your game and you want your players to eventually end up at this one location. And when you're describing the snapshot of the town as they enter in, if you describe that location that you want them to end up at the end with too much detail, or if you put it right at the last thing of your town's description, that's going to be the first thing your players are going to remember. They're going to be like, well, clearly we need to go to the big creepy tower that, they use 2 extra sentences to describe on. So it's why you got to have it be dynamic, because the small details that players latch onto, because they know they're in a game thing, are important, and they're always looking for those clues. We all run into it where we're just narrating, and we get in the habit of using DM phrases. So we'll use a DM phrase, and in the back of your mind, you're just like, well, I said that without even thinking about it. But, we let them going on thinking that that's a clue. We just adjust with it.
Yep.
So that's actually perfect, because I made a video earlier today which brought up the aspect of my players found this small fishing village, and they kind of settled in and built it into this mass metropolis of flourishing trade. And that all started because I described a broken, rundown lighthouse that no longer functioned. And they spent 4 sessions inspecting it, found an old pirate loot stash in a little cove hideout underneath the lighthouse, everything abandoned, but that turned into their home base, and they invested so much in it. So it can be rewarding in its own sense, but at the same time, that was something I kind of made like a little, ooh, maybe I can play with it later, because it was approaching Halloween. I was going to do like a little ghostly campaign, and that was kind of, I was like, ooh, like a little abandoned pirate cove thing. Nope, they found it. They did everything, and I was like, well, I've already laid it out, so it'll be like disingenuous of me to be like, oh, just today because it's Halloween, all of a sudden there's a trap door in the follower. Like, no. So they discovered it and they ran everything with it. And again, it was like,
I'll do that.
The 30-year close-up was like, oh yeah, so like this is now the central hub of trade in the entire kingdom. This was a fishing village of 35 people before you got here.
I hope they're all wealthy and like running operations there. Every single one's got to be running trade.
Yeah, they kind of turned this little town into Luskin. That's pretty
That's
much what they
awesome.
did.
I love that. I love that.
For the critters, and nugs of all the people in the live, any critter here, they know the chair. So this is exactly the chair kind of concept. Things go off the rail because you describe something a little too well or too accurately,
Yeah, that
being out of
happened.
place. So now it's the story plot.
Yeah, that happened with the
That's happened in yours?
the dwarves at the dwarven excavation. I did like a slight tone of voice, and the players were like, "Oh, well, we need to kill them." Like, and I'm like, "No, they're good. They're good. You don't need to kill them. They're okay."
Wait, the guards?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
Dazzlin and Norbus. Yeah, they thought that Dazzlin came off too
my player
strong.
smoked them out. That was great.
I
That's
didn't.
hilarious.
I didn't say like, "Oh no, you don't have to kill them," but I was just
My
like,
players ended up flipping a bag on them.
nice.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
Yeah, but the second you tell them you don't have to kill them, they feel like no later.
That's
So,
when you
you know the
call for an
Banshee?
intelligence check. You're like, hold on, give me an intelligence check real quick.
That's smart.
Give me an insight for
Oh,
free.
you got a 4? You got a 4? Even with a 4, you understand that this is a really bad idea.
You've been on a fail.
With a 4, you suspect that they will probably summon 1d4 of guards every round until every guard in the city is here or dead.
That's smart.
I've done that too.
All right. Well, we can move on to the next
Krista,
question.
so you know the Banshee inside the excavation site?
Yes.
That's a super mic delay. That's great. That's wild. It's all good.
It's really bad.
So, that Banshee almost TPK'd my entire party. Almost.
That's wild.
But luckily, that would have been the end. That was the encounter that was gonna do it all up for that entire module for me when I first ran it. So I'm glad your players made it through.
Yes.
I forgot. I don't remember what entirely I did to make sure there's a monster out of any monster. Yes. You can hear, buddy.
We're not talking.
Hello.
I'm very familiar with this. I'm very familiar with this. Although mine's on the other side of the door. He's banished from the realm.
So the next question, I'm actually going to skip the next one. I'm going to go right on to the fourth question. What advice would you give a DM who panics when players do the unexpected?
Well, my advice, simply, because, I mean, we got to figure out what we want to address here. And the main thing for me, the first thing that stands out when to address is that DM's emotional state. You need to be calm back down. You need to take a step out. So call for a bathroom break. Be like, hey, we're going to take a 10-minute bio break, grab some snacks, go burn one if you got it. And just take a moment where you're no longer under the spotlight and just kind of collect yourself. You can do it in a controlled thing is to make sure that you're in a headspace to be playing on your toes.
I agree.
Yeah, the second thing I'd say after that, I guess to add on, just because that felt like a short answer, is once we get to that point of like getting off the path and getting into the weeds, it essentially becomes a game of what if. And if you think, at least for me, if I think about it that way, it's a lot easier. Somebody could say like, well, what if I do this? And I could say, well, then in that case, this is what would happen. but it's when you're in that narrative storytelling mindset that all of a sudden becomes really hard. So if you take that step out, you play that what in my storytelling voice.
Very well said.
I agree. You want to go next? Or you want me to
Sure.
go next?
I can hop in. You got a passenger and a co-pilot there.
Yep.
On the advice to a GM that is panicking, the best kind of goes back to what we discussed in the first or second question is don't over prep, because if you're following a script line for line and somebody skips 10 lines ahead, you're scrambling to catch up. This needs to be a game of yes and we've all seen it either on TikTok, in comedy shows, some lives. We've watched live plays and just any kind of stand-up thing. This is what it is. This is improv. You are following a basic script, and as a GM, your role is kind of to know the basic outline of the story and how to keep things within that. So again, it's kind of like, oh, we're having this drastic conversation with the king, and then the bard comes off and just like, ooh, let's flirt with the queen. That's like, you just roll with it. You have to be in the story. You have to be able to react more so than reply. It's more of a reaction than a written reply. And that's where I think a lot of it comes in, is don't get too invested in the base idea, but play what the table is, play on what the table is feeding you, and kind of try to rein that in a loosely scripted base concept rather than word for word dialogue. This isn't a video game where there's predetermined options. This is a player decided to do something that no video game would take into account. And, it kind of reminds me of, does anyone watch Viva La Dirt League? Is that something?
Man. I have terrible memories of things.
Yeah, they're a YouTube channel out of Australia, I believe, and they do all these
I haven't seen that.
D&D logic and all kinds of video game stuff. They're really good people, and they make. I unfortunately got myself out of Cocomelon and onto Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
Nice.
I upgraded.
Bluey's where it's at.
These guys are on YouTube. They make great content. Yeah. New Zealand. Thank you, Maury, in chat. Thank you. You're absolutely right there in New Zealand. And they made this concept where you get stuck in dialogue, but the enemy was bothered, and now they're punching you while you're in dialogue, and you can't do anything about it because you're stuck in that. So that wouldn't happen at a table. If you walk up to someone that's in dialogue and punch him, well, guess what? The guards are showing up. So this is getting out of hand. And as a DM or GM, your whole thing is not, you cannot be locked into this. You have to be flexible, malleable, and ready to react to everything your players do. And that's not something you are going to know on day one. That is not something you bought the DMG this morning and you're hosting a game tomorrow. You're not going to know this. This is an experience thing that you gain along the way. Live plays, these are professional people for years. That is not something you're going to, I saw Matt Mercer do it and therefore I can do it. No, this is an experience thing. Your ability to process information, keep it within the confines of your story, and then give excerpts of. Sorry, that was, again, much like my content on TikTok. This is long form.
No, you're good.
This is the perfect place for it.
Said. Yeah. See, for me, I don't really deal with the DM panic because I myself, I'm a little troll sometimes. You know, I agree. I'm a little troll sometimes. Even in the table that my usual dungeon master plays in, I can be a shithead. I know that for a fact. Excuse my language, but I know that. You know, but I know when to dial myself back. I've seen him panic, and me being a dungeon master myself, I've had to be like, hey, all right, man. I can see you're scrambling. Do you need a second? And I'll tell everybody, hey, we're gonna have to call. All because he accidentally described a nick on our horse's ankle. Apparently, a Fae wanted a little bit of a blood sample from our horse, and my character didn't like that. I love my horses, so I went to find out what groundhog bit my horse, and I ended up doing it wrong, dealing with a Fae and pissing off the Fae within this ranch, and the ranch got destroyed. And I watched my dungeon master being like, dude, what? I'm like, that wasn't my fault. I accidentally dragged everybody else, and everybody else fully went with my bit. Everybody went with the bit, and I apologize. You know, and for myself, I just have to be quick on my toes. You know, I started watching a lot of improvised storytelling with Dimension 20, and his tables, they know how to really send him onto loops in tangents where he has to flip around and find out how to kind of fix a quick little leak in the plot. So whenever I have to find something to do a quick little fix, I'll either tell everybody, let's do 10 minutes, same thing as everybody else said, let's do 10 minutes. I gotta do some thinking real quick. You did something that was kind of got my jaw dropping, and I'll tell them straight up, like, I didn't expect that. Give me a second here. You know,
leave it to another GM to throw a ranch in your game. Just like, how do you like it?
I chose to be a space alien.
Another thing to remember, though, is as the game master, you have more available to you than what you've prepped. You have the entire world. If I were the DM and I accidentally described the Nick with a little bit too much flavor, and somebody was on a vengeance quest at that point, and an entire town was at stake, I don't know. Maybe a giant shows up. Maybe a dragon shows up. Maybe a fresh garrison of troops shows up, and they demand that this town stable and house them. Remember Toy Story? Like when Andy's playing in the beginning and he's like, well, I got my force field dog. That is you as the DM. You can just literally drop anything in there that will defuse that situation and make your players go, okay, maybe we need to think a little bit more cleverly about how we want to go about this vengeance thing. They can still do it, but at least we can save the town. We can't save everybody from the players, but we can save large chunks of the world and the plot and time by just remembering we have an entire world at our disposal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
You're in a dungeon, maybe you don't have access to guards. You know, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Big worm pops out of the ground.
I think a big thing to also keep in mind is, you know, I see a lot of content where people talk about, you know, the can't enter, and now like your character can't pass, or there's a boulder on the road and you can't go around this, like a little rock. You know, there's this invisible wall that you can't pass, and like the wall, like the mountain is impassable terrain, whatever it is, like the video game concept or whatever of the blockage. Like you are not high enough level to go here. that's a trope that I try really hard not to implement. But I definitely do kind of send the warning signs. Like, for example, there was a time when my party was dead set. They were out to get this evil wizard because I pulled a Mulan a little preemptively. If you know, you know. If not, they arrived at the village and it's ashes, and they find a child's toy, and now they're on the vengeance. They're going like this. This cannot stand. And I was like, yeah, I may have dropped this too early because they're level 6 and everything there is end game. So I kind of started making it clear, kind of like when, for those of us that played World of Warcraft, it was like you walked into a new territory and all of a sudden all the enemies, there were more of them and they were more deadly. And you might survive an encounter with one of them, but it was very clear to you, like, oh, this is the small thing in this area. I am not strong enough to go this way yet. So I try not to do that overpowering thing, but I try to introduce Deus Ex Machina kind of thing where it's like, oh, and as you're going on this vengeful path, you start seeing a swarm of people that are coming, and these are survivors from the attack on the village. They're coming out of a basement of this barn house, or are you going to leave them, or are you going to help them rebuild and tend to them? Are you going to go on these little side quests to get stronger, or are you going to rush right into Franco Lich's maw because you saw a semi-charred doll on the ground? So as a GM, yes, you are very much in charge of that, but we have the world at our disposal. We have unlimited resources. And so I think it's very disingenuous of us to say, oh, you can't pass this, invisible force field. You can't actually proceed to this next area. And so giving them, again, another side quest, something to help them build, lay out options for new options to redirect their attention while having this new end goal in mind.
Yeah,
is kind of the
Make a side quest out of it, as opposed to going over the mountain. They find a cave that goes under the mountain, but at the entrance to the cave, there is an inscription carved into the wall that says, "None shall pass except those who possess insert random item." What is that okay, we got to find this random item if we want to go through here. What's inside the cave? Well, you've successfully put enough in the way that's next session's prep at best.
Yeah.
Yeah,
or make a bridge troll that wants, doesn't want to fight, just wants money.
Give me money. You can go through. Give me money.
I had something similar.
They found way too much money. You're like, oh, you know what? This guy needs like this much money.
Sorry, my lag.
Krista, we'll let you talk that.
No, my lag is just so bad. We got to figure this out for next week. But thank you guys for sticking with me so far.
Oh yeah, you're good.
But yeah, I had something similar where I introduced Cryovane the very first session of Dragon of Icespire Peak, and I had Cryovane land in Phandalin on the clock tower, and I was like, they could decide to go out and try to fight this dragon, but God, I hope they don't. And they didn't. And how I kind of shaped that was like, I didn't tell them that they shouldn't. I just said, yeah, the local barkeep, they've run to the door and they're boarding up the windows and they're boarding up the door. What do you want to do? I mean, they could have just said, well, screw that, I'm going out there. But they didn't. They decided to hide, and I had them all roll a group stealth to see if Cryovane would come into the tavern if he heard them. And that's kind of how I handled it. But I wanted to introduce the BBEG right at the beginning so they kind of knew what they were up against. But they could have totally just been like, let's go, and died.
Happens to the best.
But
I've done one campaign where I TPK'd my entire party in the first session because they all decided to PvP each other with a crystal that had disintegration attached to it, and that crystal activated with hostility. They decided to fight each other on that first session, activated in the middle of town. I'm like, that's you guys, man. Why you guys want to fight so fast?
That's wild. Yeah, I think to answer the question though, specifically for me, how I would, what kind of advice I'd give a DM who panics when players do the unexpected. I think you've gotta take a second and like Justin said, you've got to deal with the emotional state first. So if it's taking a 5-minute bathroom break, a 10-minute bathroom break, being like, hey, we've got snacks over here, everybody grab a drink, whatever you've got to do to, maybe you got to go in your room and sit for a second and just like hyperventilate a little bit. Like whatever you've got to do to bring yourself down.
Okay, who wants pizza?
Yeah, like you got to bring yourself down and just remember it's just a game. And these are, even if you're running a paid game, these are just humans that are here to play a game. And you can be honest, like, okay, I just need a second. I'm freaking out a little bit. I think honesty and vulnerability is key at tables, because if they don't know you're panicking and they're going to keep steamrolling you, you got to just speak up.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that on every topic we'll talk about here, it is very important, whether it is a group of friends or whether it is somebody like, we were to get together, or if it's a random pay table or table at an online, digital server, the upfront communication about expectations and understanding. If you're a new GM and you're hosting, it is very important to let that know. If you're a first time player and you're trying to learn the game, it is key to enter that room with, hey, okay, I'm going to be honest, this is my first time, don't hate on me too much. I've kind of seen some of this stuff. I've watched, Critical Role or Dimension 20. I kind of get the concept, but I'm learning. That is needed. So again, if there is something that we've all probably had it, where a player did something that was so unexpected, but at the same time wasn't world breaking, but it was just something we weren't ready for. It's okay. Pizza's here. Let's go. Let's do that now. And let me process this while we're chowing down real quick. And let me go over a smoke or let me, go to the bathroom, whatever it is. But that little break away, like you said, Krista, can be a super important, just kind of, you got your jaw dropped. It's that the wind got knocked out of you. It's just that small time to recoup to be able to continue.
Absolutely.
Hey, Ethan.
So the next question we've got here is, how do you handle when players use spells in clever but rule-bending ways?
This was an interesting one because I'm very much am a typically rules as written kind of guy. It's either within the rules or it's not. To me, that I didn't think of. In which case, as long as it's in the rules, I'm going with it. Okay, man, I never thought about doing that. I mean, I had an incident like that once with in my first Call of Cthulhu campaign. I gave them one spell, and it was one to where they could, communicate telepathically to each other as long as they're within line of sight. And one of the players, they failed every will save after doing something incredibly foolish. So they're in this layer of the big evil thing, and they're just like locked in this like mental communication state. Like they're sharing brain space. He's communing with this evil entity. And they walk up in there and they see this, and they're like, "We're gonna use that spell so we can commune with this, evil eldritch entity as well, and try to figure out what they want." And I was like, I was not prepared to roleplay an eldritch god. I was like Ghostbusters flashing in my mind, and like, are you a god? But I mean, it's 100% in the rules, and they use the spell completely appropriately. And I could have been like, yeah, for some reason he's not picking up the phone. He left you on red. Like I could have done one of those, but I mean, it just comes back to that being on the fly reoccurring theme of then you just shift into that what if mindset, and then you just go with it. And that's probably the biggest thing I would say in a situation like that is just kind of go with that gut instinct of what's going to happen and then commit to it. Because if you get 5 minutes down the road and then you go back to retcon it, you're going to break immersion, you're going to break tension, and whether, depending on your table, you could break some of that trust between the party and the game master. So just kind of go with what feels can develop it further, but don't walk it back. Plot forward, not backwards.
Don't dismiss it out of hand. Because that will then tell your player, like if you do it one clever uses of spells, your party will stop trying to come up with clever uses and then eventually just stop using it. And then it's just, oh, they're not having fun anymore because they're not using any of the stuff I'm giving them or whatever it is.
Yeah, reward creativity.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I've done plenty of NPCs that do spells in strange different ways in how the rules is written form. So usually when my players ask like, oh, can I do a spell a slightly altered way? I'm a maybe type of guy. Maybe. Roll me an Arcana. Roll me an Arcana check real quick. If you roll real low, then no, not right now. You're not able to get that type of juice out of it to do something that extreme. But if it gets to a high check, I might be like, yeah, but there's going to be slight repercussion. There'll be slight alteration. Something might happen to you in trying to overpower, overclock, or change something. But
I think a key there that you said right there is it's the aspect of rigging a spell to do a thing it wasn't intended to do, and that's exactly it. It's the can you through a roll of Arcana figure out a way to rig it to do what you want it to do.
Well, in this theoretical situation, here's my thing as a game master. I fucking love consequences.
Me too.
I am going to, if you think of something and it's not world breaking, but it's not exactly within those boundaries, yeah, I'm going to let you try it, but there's going to be consequences. You've decided the consequence of if you pass, but I get to decide what happens if you fail.
Yeah. You might be burning 2 spell slots. You might be having to burn a higher one. I've done time stop on an entire party and burnt every spell slot the wizard had. Said he can't cast no more. This now really good wizard cannot pump magic at all because he used all of it to save you guys.
Yeah, I think the key thing there is also, and then this is partially, that moment where somebody says, "Hey, it says this. Can I do this, this, and this? Or like, can I have it? Can I have Mage Hand do this?" And like I said again, my thing is, if it's like, I'll listen to the layout, but much like you guys have said, like, it's like the consequences. I love consequences, but I always kind of weigh them out, and it's not always necessarily success or failure, but it is, what is the price you're willing to pay? And I've had it happen to where I've decided often, are you willing to sacrifice this much action economy currency to do this? Because if this succeeds, this may be, like, hey, I cast Mage Hand and I apply pressure, like 3 or 5 pounds of pressure on the BBEG's heart. Or, I did some water mending and that's actually like messing with their blood. It's like, okay, are you willing to sacrifice 2 turns? Like, stand here for 12 seconds and maintain concentration because you're doing something that technically rules as written allows, but this and that, like this tiny aspect. Are you willing to make this sacrifice because you are rigging this spell to work in your favor? I will allow this, but you have to maintain concentration. You are still in battle. You are still a target. Are you willing to sacrifice this action economy to achieve this? And so I kind of make the ruling on the spot. Essentially, you want to try to coup de grace this enemy. Well, he's not in a position really for you to coup de grace. Like, it's not poke, your heart goes poof, and Big Bad is gone. But if the spell succeeds, that's pretty much what they're going to achieve. So now it's like, okay, well, what's the cost? You're trying to relearn and finagle this spell to do something it was not intended to do. Are you willing to sacrifice 30 seconds or 10 seconds to make it so? And again, now that may be, like, to go back to kind of like the Avatar Legend of Korra, is like bloodbending. Everyone knew about it, but it's like this forbidden thing, and it takes a while. You're learning the same concept, you're just learning to use it differently. So it's not, again, this spell. Sure, great. I'll accept the fact that you went on an adventure, you blew up a couple of kobolds, and all of a sudden, all this extra knowledge just appeared in your head. Always had an issue with that it just shows up.
See, I've had players. I tried to run a Wizard Academy homebrew setting, and in that was everybody played a wizard. Every single person had to play a wizard. And one of my players is like, "Can I do catapult? But can I cast catapult on my fist?" I'm like, "Roll me Arcana." He rolled really good, and over time he's like, "Can I try this again?" I had him roll until the point where I'm like, you know what? Let me Earthen's Grasp. There's specific spells made that way, so if a player wants to take that time to do that again and try that again and put that effort as a wizard to make something custom, well, you can spend that time studying that and doing those things. I might, give you a new homebrew spell that only you can now cast. Now you're a fully melee wizard in this academy that's punching your bullies.
Yeah, and like it is a conversational thing. It is like, I never dismiss. It's ultimately like my 2 cents on this is never just dismiss I want to use this spell like this. It's like, okay, but like there's going to be a period of time where this has a chance to fail and it doesn't take off. You're still going to expend the spell slot, or you're still going to do this, or it's going to be a concentration thing for X period of time until you as a player have mastered it. Because I go off the system of, the basic premise of these spells. Like, you know, by the time like you're level 1 and you're going off on an adventure, you know what fireball does. You know how to cast it. It's just you don't have the internal fortitude energy to cast it. Like, if you could cast it and you'd just be drained and exhausted, 2 levels of exhaustion on the ground, because it's like, yeah, that took everything out of me. And I'm allowed that. I'm allowed to cast above your level at a huge cost. But so you know the concept, you're just now, you've gained power enough to be able to cast this. And
like to add to that, if you have like a wizard that constantly wants to do things like that in any party, and show things in the narrative plot, like, oh, you see a adept young wizard that tried to cast something way off his level, his now entire arm is crisp. He has lost these things. He has taken these grand sacrifices. Even a professor that has horrible, things happen. That's like, oh, it's because I've studied and pushed myself past these limits, much like you are trying to. So be careful. Be warned. This is a sacrifice I made due to my greed and my gluttony.
there was a video I watched many years ago, and I say many years ago. It was probably during COVID. And just, when you have kids, everything is forever ago.
Feels many years ago. Many moons.
Many moons ago, when I was but a young boy. No, those things where it's just like at work and just audio in the background, and one video led to another, and I'll look over and it's like D&D lore, and it was exactly like talking about like these world altering spells, and this came into existence because it was a level 10 or a level 11 spells, and then Mistra stepped in and said no, like that's no longer a thing because this dude straight up tried to take my place as a deity. Yeah, so it's like, no, you can, there's only so much power available for you to draw on. And that intrigued me immensely because it goes over, because in lore, and I will give Wizards of the Coast, not Hasbro, I will give Wizards of the Coast and the old school staff there that was there at the time the absolute glorified crown of credit, because they built a world and published stories and allowed for content creators to kind of fill in, like R.A. Salvatore, nothing to do with Wizards of the Coast. He just made a story, and they were just like, this is canon, deal with it. Like they just adopted that entire thing, and so allowed it. But these stories, they allowed for this to be canonized. They allowed this to be permanent in their worlds, in the Forgotten Realms, in Faerun. And those concepts of a deity literally stepped in and said, no, we've seen what you can do with this, and that stops here. Like and even with that, we still had lore canonized. Somebody still managed to replace the God of Death, and the Raven Queen came to be. So, like, it's Raven still Queen possible. So it's like it is still possible to do this, but it really goes to show that mass drive, that still possible, even though the gods have stepped in and said, "Here's a limit that we're not going to let you do." So. Now I forget completely what the question was and what the relevant subject was. So, Krista, please get us back on track. We derailed the conversation.
That's okay. No, so
it was about spells. We were in there.
Yeah.
We were in the rails.
Yeah, we were just talking about like how do you handle players that cast spells or want to cast spells that are clever but rule bending. For me, I don't have enough experience yet. I haven't seen this too much. What I have heard, there's one thing that you mentioned. I've heard the like controlling water with blood, or like someone's blood inside of them, and I've heard that before. And I guess, yeah, how would you handle that? Because I'm like, that is kind of smart, but and blood is made up of water, so how does that work?
I mean, to be fair, I also had like somebody try to pull like that. Well, like you don't see his blood, so you need to have visibility. It's like, oh, I see his eyes. That's 95% fluid, so I'm gonna just do it to his eyes instead. And they're like, oh shoot, okay. So again, it's a matter of you're gonna have those moments where a clever player reads into it, and this is technically not against the rules, and now you have to figure out, again, it's an experience thing.
It's
So
not,
again,
they'll
it's
fox
the best
you.
thing you can do. Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where you have to learn through your failures and experience as a GM or as a player that nothing is off the table, so to speak, and creativity is rewarded, but as a GM you also have to go, okay, this is something that hasn't been done before, and you're going to try something new. So, like they said, like Nomi said, like roll an Arcana check. Can you figure out how to alter to affect not water, but eyeball fluid or blood or whatever?
I would set it. I would set it
even then,
within.
that can be to like, okay, yeah, it's a. It's kind of like specific targeting of a body part. It's like, oh yeah, his AC is 19. You want to go for his head, it's going to be 29. And you can do the same with spells. You are not targeting body of water. Your target score to hit is going to be the regular one,
like a 23, 25. If someone's going for blood, 23 to 25, but like, oh, you're trying to really push that. If they have a good Arcana modifier, oh, good on them. They're a studied wizard. But that's if they can hit that. They might have to roll 18, 19 to that to even succeed that type of control. And they might be at that within failure where they're now getting cramps themselves. They might exhibit exhaustion because now they controlled someone's blood. Now they've hurt their own constitution.
Yeah, and the Tavern Keeper actually in the chat posted and there's consequences for failure. So that's exactly it too. Is depending on what you're playing. Playing Vampires the Masquerade, where like morality and humanity and other features are taken into account.
Yeah.
These kinds of things are definitely one of those. Oh, you went dark. Like you went, you tried to squish somebody's heart and you failed, and now it's like your alignment is evil. Like you went from lawful good to lawful evil. Like you went dark. Seen the videos, and I've made a couple of them. Is alignment doesn't really have too much of a system built consequences anymore. Didn't through 4E, doesn't really in 5E. Feel like a lot of it needs to kind of come back to a certain aspect, at least to where it's built into the system. But that aspect of it is like, if you go a certain way, and if that's not a consequence, okay, like, yeah, no, you tried something evil and you did it willingly, like not by accident. It wasn't like you freaked out and just felt the power and, whatever. You intentionally did this. Your like alignment goes towards evil, and you failed anyway. So you take, a D4 of damage because, it hurt you. You strained yourself so hard trying that it just did something. Take a level of exhaustion or whatever it is. Take, D6.
Justin, it sounded like you had something
there
to
has
say.
to be consequences to this, but the reward, if it's successful.
Well, I was just gonna say, if I were to make a rule on that, it would be a variable DC. So it'd be an Arcana check. Anything below a 12 is a fail. 12 and 13, you can make them flush. Like you can feel that you have it, but you're not quite getting there. 14 and 15, you can give them a nosebleed, and then, like 16 and up, and then we start talking, but like it doesn't have to be a static, like, hey, pass or fail, just this is outright. There's degrees of success. We want our players to know that, like, hey, not only did I let you try it, but it's possible.
And not only is it possible, this may drive you to fail more to try to succeed. And which can build a canonical line in your campaign to be like, oh, I invented blood altering or blood bending or, eyeball popping, whatever it is. Like it can be that thing of creating a new spell from the existing spell. That's, that wizard's drive into madness, as it were, of, I believe it was Mordenkainen that wrote, like, creating spells is the most maddening thing a wizard can do. So that kind of concept is very much a learn through your failures, but keep failing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're doing here is we are trying to be the best we can be, and we're still going to roll at once, regardless of our level.
Tavern Keep has another question in the chat. He asked, do you guys stop the action and negotiate the terms of the action, or you just rule on the fly? For me, I haven't encountered that.
Basically, like, I'll process it. It's like I'll process it a little quick, and it's like, okay, let's kind of see. And again, this is experience talking. You may stop the game if you're unexperienced or new to it, and you may say no. And again, just like, okay, I like the idea, but let me think on it. And then you can have that conversation out of session or after the session or during the, potty break or whatever. But ultimately, I think it's the more experience you get, the more quickly you can make that decision on the fly. It's like, ooh, okay, let's give it a try. DCX, and on a grading scale, like, Heathen, I'm sorry, was I'm terrible with names. That's the problem with me. So it's, he said it's a grading scale of success. Like, oh, you feel it's possible, and you caused him to have a nosebleed, but like the spell fails, will do like a single point of damage. Like, it's not what you wanted, but it gets you there. And then we can discuss the details later. And it doesn't have to be something that stops the game, but it can be an aha moment for the player and feeling rewarded for coming up with this crazy idea. So,
for me, it's situational based on if I stop the game or just make an on-the-fly judgment. Because I've done both. I've made on-the-fly judgments without stopping it, and then I've had my players suggest something that's out there, and I go, okay, hold on. So we can do this, but this is how I'm thinking. And then I bounce it off of them because they might have ideas too. And they're like, well, this is what I was thinking. And that's that collaborative part coming back together. I was like, this is how I see it, and this is why I see it going this way. What did you have in mind? And then we go, okay, so we agree that this is possible, and this is what it looks like. Give me that roll.
Yeah.
I also like the concept, and this is something, those of us that have been in the game for a while, the Dad Adventure Guilds post a kind of a follow-up. Depending on what they are attempting, you could make it a risk permanent max HP loss. For those of us that have played older systems, and some probably still ongoing systems, level drain, permanent HP or stat exhaust, that was a thing. Like, you could be a level 20 character with terrible stats because you constantly got level drain and you constantly got stat penalties. So that's not off the table, but the system as it has been since 4th edition does not really build for it, because everything that is negative, as it were, was in the older, like 3.5 and before, and those were all removed. All baseline negative stats and permanent negative effects were kind of removed from the game system from that point. And that's something I do feel like, yeah, the horrors of level drain are real
It
because
seems wild.
it could ruin your day. It could ruin your session.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I
I
would
already
be
know
as
a few
risky.
players of mine that would be pissed if they got their level drained.
Yeah, especially, and that's the thing. Again, the game wasn't built. It was a war game. It was like the level drain was the permanent. You took a bullet to the leg. Actually, Thaco was simple. It's annoying from this perspective of what we do now, but back then Thaco was basic. That's how we learned. So we older players, we came into 3.5 and 3rd edition with the non-Thaco stuff, and that was like, nah, like this.
I'm not
this
sure what
a learning
Thaco is.
process.
Yeah.
It's a tangent, but I loathe. Yeah, it's to hit armor class 0 or something like that.
To hit armor class 0.
But it's how they used to do it. And it sounds way better because I loathe the armor class system. Nothing makes me more frustrated than being like, oh, I guess I just miss. I'm a competent fighter, but I miss my attack because he has his fancy pants on.
In fairness, martial classes were built to hit everything, every attack, and non-martial classes doing martial attacks, they had a hard time hitting because they were not as skilled or proficient.
Oh yeah.
What 3.3, like 3E and 4E and on have tried to do instead to make up for that is the weapon master, where you get a +1 to all attacks to kind of even further increase your ability to not miss. But again, it's two different systems, and honestly, that's a conversation for another random encounter.
Oh yeah. But I can go on for armor class.
We can move on to the next question, which we've kind of already answered them, but we can kind of answer them one more time, and we can wrap things up here. But I think the best one that I should ask now is, how do you maintain dramatic tension if the players skip ahead in your story?
So dramatic tension, since this is one that I'm pretty confident in, since like Call of Cthulhu, Delta Green, all these horror games that I run weekly, they're nothing without that tension. That tension is what you're playing for. And tension is the result of multiple factors. It has nothing to do with what rooms you're at or what part of the story you're on. Like, if somebody skips a certain part of the story due to creative thinking, that just means that the next bit of tension they're about to receive is going to be a steep incline. Tension, like, how you build tension is by doing things like imposing consequences. Players, especially in a game like D&D, where your characters start out as competent and become superheroes, they're not going to shy away from 90% of your encounters. They're going to assume, if it's in front of them, that the DM put it there because they can do something about it. But as they start to see the consequences of their actions and how they engage with the world, that's going to affect them and how effective they are in your game world. And that's going to start elevating their tension. They're going to start looking at their character sheets. They're going to start looking at where their HP's at, how many spell slots they have left. They're going to say, okay, well, maybe we should start looking for somewhere for a short rest. But that's where we, as the DM, can be like, well, actually, you don't have that there. Maybe that was in one of those areas or that part of the story that they skipped. As you guys are looking around for a place to rest, you give me a listen check. You hear this in the background. You hear more trouble on the way. Tension is just what helps you
My mom was
motivate the
too.
party to move forward. It's a very abstract idea that doesn't have any hard rules, but it is a combination of consequences and your players growing unease about their place in your world. So as they expend more resources, as they lose more hit points, they're going to feel that tension. And if you want to maintain that, even if they skip something, you just don't let up. Keep the story with its consequences, keep that pressure on them, keep the encounters coming, and they will continue to feel it. They lose the tension is lost the moment you acquiesce and say, hey, yeah, you know what? Actually, you guys do find a nice safe cave and you have a nice long rest. Your spell slots are replenished, your hit points are restored. That's the tension breaking moment when we give in and we decide that we're going to be the nice guys.
Yeah, and I've done that a few times by accident. I'm like, oh, now they're getting a little cocky again. Oh man, it happens. Happens to the best.
No, you want to take that next, or you want to?
Yeah, sure. See, for me, whenever I try to keep dramatic tension, like in my normal game or my morning game, the one I've been running for years, I've kind of broken it by accident because I've thrown a lot of things that I've been inspired by into this world, like One Piece. I made feats for a lot of the devil fruits from One Piece because one of my players decided, oh, I want to play Goldie Roger. Isekai'd into the Forgotten Realms. I'm like, okay, this is going to make things a little difficult here. So in combats, I try to narrate things in a more dynamic way. I'm like, oh, can't just be they're just 5 feet in front of each other, clink, 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 clink until one's dead. Like, no, this person needs to have an ability to hop over here, to transport over there, make them have a reason to run after these people, make them have a reason to jump across mass ledges, give them a reason to want to expend that resource to do the crazy, to do the wild and ambitious. And if they fail the wild and ambitious, I try to narrate it in a point where it's like, oh, this is that down point in that moment. There's not always going to be a constant high. Woohoo! There's going to be a quick like, oh no. Oh, and a lot of my players straight up in encounters are like, this is it, we're done. And I've watched them completely blow things off the wall, completely blow my mind on things they've done. Because I'm like, I've watched you guys, I pushed you guys to that, now you're at 20% of your hit points, now you're burning resource. Now you're trying to really finish this off because you think this is it. And you've been playing this character for about 2 years now. You really want this to be it? And, you got to give them those moments. Sometimes it means give them those feats too. Because I have a player that has currently 3 reactions per turn because we decided to anime out. Decided to completely anime out. So now they're fighting someone with a magma. They're fighting someone with mass ice that's got immunity to ice, immunity to magma, but they ignore your resistance to fire because they're so hot. Your fire resistance ain't good enough for them. And they have a little animus at first until they realize, oh, this is why. Until they realize more in that encounter, that's why, but I also gave them a little crutch. And they have to do those checks, those insight checks of like, what is that person's weakness now? Because everything I'm doing isn't purchasing. No matter what I'm doing to hit, they're just too dang hard. They might have low wisdom. They might have real high strength and constitution, but that wisdom stat might be still a +0. Find that saving throw.
I like that.
Yeah, I think there's also the tension aspects. If you kind of keep on like with the focus of it, is I used to do especially like in pretty much all my games, I call it like the rising storm. It's like the world is being affected. So like you have a timer now to get X done. But the favorite I think I ever implemented on that was when I played Vampires. I hosted a game of Vampires the Masquerade, uh, World of Darkness, and there was this, clan war, this, big thing, and it's like if you let down, they're gonna get territory, they're gonna get stronger, and so like there was always that you constantly have to be jabbing, fighting for territory. There's really no downtime because you got this, now you kind of have to go reinforce over here, and so there was this one time. Because I did, and again, I cannot recommend this willingly or in good faith, but it is fun. But it is a multi-campaign. You have 3, 4 campaigns running all in the same world, all in the same time, kind of thing.
I love West Marsh.
West Marsh style.
Yeah, I love that.
I was doing that, so eventually, when I had both of my parties that I was playing, they were on the separate clans that were in this turf war. And so then I had one session where I brought them together. So I had 8 players at my table, and there was this big fight, and it was essentially just PvP. And then it kind of happened, that very kind of anime moment where they kind of stopped and just like, we're all hurt, like we're all here. It was just 2-3 turns of them just kind of staring at each other. It's like, do we continue and die, or do we reach an agreement that this is a boundary line that neither party will cross? Yeah. And that was such a beautiful thing, to where like one is down, one is like, I think I saw a blood truck, like a ambulance with like blood supply down the road. Like, we can go fix ourselves, but if we turn our backs, like, they could jump us. So it's like, what do we do? And so that tension at the table, and watching down a line of a long dinner table where you have 4 people on this side, 4 people on that side, and they're all like in their personal text chain, like texting back and forth, like evil glaring across the table at the other party, and coming up with plans. And then like one group goes out and starts whispering like little schoolgirls, and it was just beautiful to watch. And then they came together with it, like, all right, we got a proposition. We're going to mark this territory as no trespass. And it was just like, all right, cool. So the tension is still on, and you go your separate ways. But this clash is now over. Like the time when your 2 gangs finally interacted, that's done with. So now the tension is still there, and they know it's there. But now it's very much, they kind of know what they're getting into, and they know what they need to build up to overcome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And going back to what I was saying on consequences, another thing that occurred to me, if you're curious where to draw your consequences from, look at the elements of the story that they have somehow managed to bypass. Because there's something that they've bypassed that you were expecting them to do, and not doing that. They don't know that. They just think, hey, we found a shortcut. Or maybe they're not even aware that they have found a shortcut. Yeah. Maybe this was just the logical answer to them. But those are still resources that you've already, because you're doing everything that we talked about earlier, and your prep is not static, it's dynamic. You can revert that. So maybe they bypass an entire area. You wanted them to pass through a certain cave system, or through a certain mountain pass, or through a certain town, and there's these engagements that are going to be going there. But they have found a way around that. Well, guess what? They've basically just flanked themselves. So they're over here feeling pretty good. They've made it to this area. They're doing good on their resources. And they're scoffing at what's in front of them. Let them hear what's behind them.
Yeah.
You've already prepped for it. You know their stats, you know their abilities. Like for every action that they perform, there's a consequence. It's just, in all honesty, it's whether or not we have considered the consequences of it. Because a lot of times, it's just like, hey, we'll think about that later. But when you're in one of those moments, just think about how those resources that you've already allocated and prepped for can be reutilized, how they can show back up.
That's really good.
There's always too the consequences of reactions. So where like they helped a family, come into town, or they were leaving town when the party was going in, and they helped them fix the wagon wheels. And then later on, the party comes back out. Whatever happened to the family? Did they ever make it to their final destination? Are you going to stumble upon a ransacked, damaged cart, and you recognize it because of the sigils on it, or you see the patchwork on that one wheel that you did? Like all these kinds of things. Like, as much as I kind of hate to phrase it this way, but everything in that world is your weapon to use against the party. And tension doesn't necessarily mean combat or the threat of combat, but it can be the loss of investment. And, again, it's that Mulan trigger, which is you are supposed to get here and you're supposed to meet these reinforcements, and then you get there and it's too late and you have nothing but consequences in front of you. That doesn't need to be a backhand to the face. That can just be a good narrative story moment because, okay, I need to light some fires here.
Yeah.
Like I need to do something. We need to escalate this. Consequence, they took their sweet time. There are consequences to that. They took extra time to train. There are consequences to that. So those are things that also you need to kind of keep in mind because yes, we can all play the fun fairy tale fantasy game, but ultimately this is a war game. There is combat in the system. Like it's actually a combat game because 2/3 of the book is combat rule focused. So that's the base one, at least 1/3 pillar of the game. That's gonna be part of it.
Yeah.
So build on that aspect as well, unless that's something you're trying to avoid. Because not all consequences, not everything has to be combat, but it is a good tool for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this was fun.
Anything you want to add, Chris?
No, I'm good. Did you want to add something?
No, I think that was flawless.
Yeah, that was good.
I would like to if I could, I would like to there's one in here that I prepped especially for, and it was how do you teach new DMs to embrace curveballs instead of fearing them?
Go for it.
I have one tip of advice on that. And that's about how you go about your prep. See, for me, and this is these days, and I brought this to illustrate. I keep all my old game notes. All these, this is session prep and notes for one game. It is massive. This is big, it's bulky, it's unwieldy. I put all this stuff down here for my own comfort in case my players asked something or they did something. I had a note of it. I spent more time searching this than I was being in the moment. So I started looking at how I went about prep. And as opposed to saying like, okay, they're going to get to this point in the game and this is how the scene's going to go. They're going to talk to this person. This is the information they know, blah, blah, blah. Instead, I build set pieces. I look at it on a bigger scale. So I look at it as like, okay, as opposed to inside this house, there's this nobleman and this is what he knows and this is how they get that information. I say, hey, this is the town. And these, like, there's people in the town that know this information. That way, if they decide to engage that nobleman, or maybe they botch it and they go up there and they're just like, no, I wanna flip him the bird and try to intimidate him. There's other ways for him to get that information. And thinking about it that way, the bird and try to intimidate him. There's other ways for him to get that information. And thinking about it that way,